I don't know what I want, she said, clutching her phone like it was some kind of lifeline. I stared at her, then down at the screen. The messages were still open, glowing back at me like tiny shards of betrayal. Flirty emojis. Long-winded "I miss you" texts from someone who clearly wasn't me. A name I didn't recognize, but the tone I knew. It was the kind of language you only use when you're halfway out the door and trying to keep the lights on in both rooms. Lena stood barefoot in the middle of our living room, eyes glossy, but not quite sorry. Her mouth moved like she was rehearsing lines she hoped would land softer than the truth. "I'm just confused," she whispered, like that would somehow suspend the consequences. And right there, in that moment, something in me shut off. Not violently, not dramatically, just like a light switch flipped in the back of my brain. Click. Confused? Fine. Let me make things crystal clear. I didn't argue. I didn't demand answers or ask her how long it had been going on. I didn't raise my voice or fall into that pit of begging to be chosen. I've never been good at waiting in lines, especially not ones where I'm the backup plan. So I walked upstairs, gathered my essentials with the kind of calm that comes after the storm, and left. No door slam, no long speech, just keys in the ignition and the realization that if she didn't know what she wanted, she damn well didn't deserve someone who did. That night, I blocked her, deleted the photos, removed her from my contacts like extracting a splinter you didn't know was lodged too deep. She thought I'd give her time, that I'd hover like an option she could return to once she figured things out. But I don't live in maybe, and that's the part she never saw coming. The signs didn't show up all at once. They came slowly, like fog rolling in just thick enough to make everything feel off, without being able to point to exactly why. It started with little things. Missed calls she didn't return. Texts that read like placeholders instead of conversations. Busy at work became her go-to excuse, even on nights when I knew the project load wasn't heavy. I told myself not to overthink it. We all get tired. We all have off days. But the distance, that was harder to ignore. We used to touch without thinking. Passing hugs in the hallway, light kisses while cooking dinner, casual intimacy that didn't require effort. That changed. Her affection became calculated, like she was checking off a box instead of feeling something. And when I looked in her eyes, those playful, unpredictable eyes that used to sparkle with mischief, I saw a flicker of guilt, or hesitation, or both. Still, I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe it was something personal. Maybe it had nothing to do with me. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who smothered or second-guessed every move. So I waited, watched, and gave her room to breathe. But the space I gave her? She used it to build distance. One evening, she left her phone on the counter while she stepped into the shower. I wasn't looking for anything, but when the screen lit up, I noticed a name I didn't recognize, a heart emoji next to it. The preview message? Last night was on my mind all day. My chest tightened, not because of jealousy, but because of clarity. I picked up the phone. No passcode. She must have forgotten to reset it. What I found wasn't explicit, but it didn't need to be. Dozens of messages, all laced with suggestive subtext and emotional flirtation. I wish I could see you again. You always know what to say. And the worst one, I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel something with you. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. It was intimate in the kind of way that erodes foundations slowly and silently. I sat there, reading through the thread, feeling a knot form in my gut. Not because I didn't see it coming, but because I had. I had seen it all along and just didn't want to believe it. I closed the messages, placed the phone back where I found it, and walked away without saying a word. Later that night, as we sat across from each other on the couch, she smiled like everything was fine. I smiled back. But something had already shifted inside me. Trust, once cracked, never goes back to what it was. And when she reached for my hand and rested her head on my shoulder, I felt like I was being touched by a stranger. The worst part wasn't the messages. It wasn't the emotional affair, or even the secrecy. It was the realization that she was letting it happen, knowing it would hurt me, because she wasn't strong enough to stop it, or honest enough to admit it. In the days that followed, I found myself withdrawing too. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in preparation. I stopped asking where she was going or when she'd be back. I stopped initiating conversations. I watched her carefully, like someone documenting the final stages of something once cherished. She thought I was oblivious. She thought I was waiting. But what I was really doing was choosing my exit. The confrontation wasn't planned. It wasn't some dramatic explosion or a perfectly timed revelation. It was quieter than that, simpler, almost too calm for the weight of what I was about to ask. We were sitting at the kitchen table one Saturday morning, coffee mugs between us, the sunlight cutting across the countertops like everything was still normal. Lena was scrolling through her phone with one leg tucked under her, wearing one of my old t-shirts like she used to when things were good. She looked peaceful, but I wasn't. I set my cup down and looked at her. Not her face, exactly, but the space just beside it. Like it hurt too much to meet her eyes directly. "Lena," I said, my voice low but steady, "is there something you want to tell me?" She didn't look up right away. That was the first sign. If there's nothing to hide, you meet the question head on. But she hesitated. Her thumb froze mid-scroll, her lips parted just slightly. "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to sound casual, but her tone betrayed her. "I mean, about the messages. The ones you've been sending to someone who clearly isn't just a friend." That got her attention. Her head snapped up, eyes wide with the kind of panic people get when the lie has run out of places to hide. "I can explain," she said almost immediately, which always means they can't. Her voice was soft, defensive. "It's not what you think." I leaned back in the chair and just watched her. I didn't yell. I didn't press. I didn't accuse. I gave her space, one final opportunity, to own her truth. But Lena didn't take it. "I'm just confused," she said, as if that explained anything. "I don't know what I want right now. My feelings are all over the place. I care about you, Ryan. I really do. But I'm also not sure what's wrong with me." Confused. That word again. It hung in the air like smoke, filling every corner of the room with its vagueness. Confusion was an excuse, a shield to avoid saying what she really meant, that she wanted the freedom to explore something new without letting go of the comfort I provided. I nodded slowly, almost like I was agreeing. But inside, something settled. A decision clicked into place. "I understand," I said, not sarcastically, but with full intention. Then I stood up, walked to the sink, rinsed my cup, and placed it on the drying rack. She stared at me like she expected more. An argument, a plea, a reaction. But I gave her none of that. That was the last conversation we ever had as a couple. No final fight, no begging, no closure talk, just her, sitting in silence, and me, walking away, with mine. The silence started as a decision. Then it became a habit. By the end of the week, it was permanent. After that conversation in the kitchen, I didn't make a scene. I didn't pack up dramatically or send a long message explaining my feelings. I simply left, quietly. I went to stay at a friend's place for a while. Someone who didn't ask questions, just handed me a spare key and a nod of understanding. Lena didn't try to stop me. Not at first. I didn't block her immediately. I wanted her to feel the weight of my absence before I took away the possibility of reaching me. That was part of the clarity. I needed her to feel the silence growing, creeping in where my presence used to be. The first message came the next morning. "Hey, can we talk?" I didn't open it. A day later, another. "I've been thinking a lot. Please, Ryan, I just need to explain." Still, I said nothing. Each notification felt like proof that I was finally doing the right thing, finally putting myself first. By day 4, the tone had changed. The messages weren't calm anymore. They were erratic, desperate, swinging between remorse and anger. I made a mistake. "Why are you doing this? You're being cold." And then, ironically, "I thought you loved me." That last one almost made me laugh, not out of cruelty, but because of the sheer irony. I had loved her, deeply, patiently, in a way that waited, even when it shouldn't have. But love without respect is just a performance, and I was done performing. One night, I opened our shared photo album on my phone, the one where we used to drop pictures from trips, birthdays, lazy Sundays. I scrolled for a few minutes, then deleted it without fanfare. That was our story. Nice moments, good intentions, and underneath it all, a growing disconnection that neither of us wanted to name. She called once. I let it ring out. She didn't leave a voicemail, just a missed call. The kind of call people make when they don't even know what to say anymore, but can't stand the silence. Eventually, I blocked her. On everything. Messages, calls, social media. Not out of spite, but to protect the progress I'd made in just a short time away from her. The peace I'd reclaimed was something I wasn't willing to compromise, not even for closure she thought she deserved. Friends started asking questions. Mutual acquaintances reached out cautiously. "Are you okay? Do you want to talk?" But I wasn't angry. I wasn't heartbroken. I was calm. Strangely calm. Because this time, I didn't get left behind. I walked out on my own. And every time I thought about responding, every time my fingers hovered over the keyboard, I remembered her words. "I'm just confused." And mine echoed back louder. "I'm not." It happened on a Thursday evening, a couple of weeks after I cut off all contact. I had just returned from a late dinner with a coworker. Nothing serious, just conversation that didn't feel heavy. We talked about travel, music, the oddness of adulthood. No confessions, no comparisons, no mention of Lena. That was the first time in a long while I didn't feel the weight of her name dragging behind me. When I got home and unlocked my phone, there it was, her name. Again. The preview of the message started with, "I've been thinking," and that was all I needed to read. I didn't open it. Not because I was angry, but because I knew exactly what was inside. A mix of regret, nostalgia, and the illusion of hope. It would be long, emotional, crafted to pull at what used to be. But I wasn't that man anymore. She no longer had access to him. I turned off notifications and placed the phone face down. Lena, I realized, hadn't expected silence to be so loud. She thought distance would give her time to recalibrate, to test the waters while still keeping one foot on familiar ground. She assumed I'd orbit her confusion like some loyal satellite, waiting for her clarity to arrive. But clarity never comes when someone else delivers it for you. It arrives when you stop speaking in circles, when you choose to face the truth without excuses. I had done that. She hadn't, and that was the difference. The message remained delivered, not read. That alone told the full story. Meanwhile, my life was beginning to look different. Simpler, yes, but more peaceful. I had started journaling again, taking long walks in the morning, picking up books I used to love, reconnecting with people I had let drift during the relationship. Not once did I feel the need to explain what had happened. It wasn't shame I carried. It was resolution. Lena's silence had once left me confused. Her games, her indecision, the emotional whiplash. I used to lie awake wondering what I could do differently to make her stay. Now, I slept soundly. Closure didn't come from her message. It came from not needing to answer it. Somewhere out there, I imagine her still checking her phone, wondering if this is the day I'll finally reply. But I won't. Not because I want to punish her, but because I refuse to return to a version of myself that settled for being someone's maybe. In the end, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream or curse or seek revenge. I simply disappeared from her life and stayed gone. And sometimes, the loudest way to say goodbye is to never say another word again.